Hello, cultures that outperform. I'm Frank Wander, the CEO of People Productive, and I'm here with Terry Mays, an amazing individual and certified culture engineer. And today we're going to be talking about how leaders kill meaning at work. I think the biggest problem is that leaders just, frankly, don't even know how to create meaning in many cases. And if you don't know how to create it, you probably don't know what it is, and then you probably don't even realize you're killing it. And so there's so many studies on this. Terry and I have done other broadcasts on motivation and what motivates people, and we've talked about some of this. But we're going to take a look at some information here from Teresa Amabile, who wrote a book actually called The Progress Principle. And this is you could pick this up. You could go get articles on it at Harvard Business Review. This is an older McKinsey quarterly, How Leaders Kill Meaning at Work. But she talks about workers' inner lives and the things that really motivate them. And, a multi-year research project whose results we described in our recent book, The Progress Principle, found that all the events that can deeply engage people in their jobs, the single most important is making progress in meaningful work. So if you take the progress away, there's not going to be much meaning. And so this is something that I think conceptually everybody should be aware of. If you're a leader, you really want to think about the importance of meaning and the importance of progress tied together, because she's absolutely right. This progress principle, the things that create a really good inner work life is the importance of making progress in meaningful work. So Tara, what are your initial thoughts on this?
Yeah, so this whole progress thing really matters to people because we all want to feel like we achieved something. Inside we're all just competing against ourselves and against other people. Some of us are a little bit more competitive than others, and you may see that competition more outwardly than others. But for the most part, we're all wired to have that sense of accomplishment, that we've actually done something that mattered. That's how most of us are wired. So when you stop that process and you shift people on to different assignments, or you change their assignments so frequently that they feel like, does any of this even matter? If they start to feel like I'm just doing busy work, that I don't really think that anybody cares about this stuff, they're just kind of giving me random things to do. When people start feeling like that, it undermines their sense of accomplishment.
Oh, it does.
And yeah, and then you start to feel like, well,
Yeah.
what's the point? So now if it doesn't matter, and I know it doesn't matter, and it doesn't matter, then why should I do it at all? And so you really start down the slippery slope of, well, why care? And then when people stop caring about their work, of course they're not doing a good job. Of course they're not bringing their whole self to the activity. They're just doing the bare bones minimums to get by. And we've talked several times about how detrimental that can be to the morale of the team, to have people that are just there getting by.
Yeah.
There's people that are fully engaged, that are bringing their whole self to work, that feel empowered, and they feel like they belong on the team. When you have people like that, the creativity goes off the charts, because I'm thinking about work even when I'm not thinking about work. I'm thinking about work when I'm at work and when I'm not at work, because
Driving home. Hey, wow.
I want it to be successful. So I'm thinking about it in different ways and thinking, how can I make this better at all times, versus, well,
Looks
this
like
stuff
we
doesn't
lost Tara
matter.
for a moment here. Yeah,
Am
Tara,
I
we
back?
lost you for a second. Yeah, you're back.
Oh,
You know,
man.
um, it happens. We're all living in the real world here. I like I like the fact, you started with the whole notion of, does this even matter, right? Because they're changing direction so much. And this is where meaning really starts, is that strategy and communicating the strategy, sticking to it. Is it really important? If it's really important, then obviously you're not going to be changing direction all the time. If you're tweaking your strategy, that's fine. And you're explaining why you're tweaking it, no problem. And the whole notion of, did it really ever matter? I love that, because Dan Ariely, in his research, and he did a lot of work on motivation, in his book called Drive, but he met with this 200-person group of developers that were working at a software company on this very important project. And they had spent quite a bit of time on it. I don't know, maybe they worked on it for 2 years, but one day they get a note from the CEO saying the project's canceled with nothing else. Like nothing they ever did even mattered at all. All the work they did didn't matter in the end. And so it left them with this completely empty feeling. And there were so many ways they could have created meaning, eating even out of the cancellation. Like Dan Ariely pointed out, they could have found ways to maybe use some of it elsewhere in the company. People could have shared their journey and what they learned. They did take away real things from it, but the CEO was blind to the fact that he was just destroying the meaning, not just on that project, but the next time they pumped up the next big thing. Does it really matter to them? Because now you're establishing very clearly the fact that, hey, I'm saying it matters, but maybe it isn't that important. And I
Yeah.
think that's a real issue.
Yeah, the so whether you realize it or not, as a leader, you are teaching your employees to either respect you and trust what you're saying or not.
Yeah,
Oftentimes, you're teaching people not to trust you and you don't even realize it. You don't even realize that it's happening because of the things that you're doing. So it's so vitally important to make sure that you're sharing the reason with people, that you make them feel like, this matters, and that you're not giving them busy work. You're not giving them assignments that truly don't matter. Make sure that you're spending time with people to help them understand why this matters and how it fits into the big picture, how what they're doing on a daily basis makes a difference for the company. And you can tie those things together. Most
yeah,
times, it's, well, I shouldn't say most times. Sometimes it's pretty easy to see the connection. But there are times when I've had assignments when I really didn't understand how it fit into the big picture. So I was kind of like,
yeah,
does this really matter? But once I started to see how it fits into the big picture, then now I take it more seriously and
yeah,
it starts to have more meaning to me. And when it has more meaning to me, then I want to do the best job I can do.
yeah,
So it's a cycle that really works in your favor if you can help people understand the big picture.
yeah. By the way, thanks for continuing on. I fat fingered something and disappeared, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Frank at the controls. Look at I'm sitting here and I just, move my trackpad here and boom, suddenly I realize I'm gone. I had to come
You're
back.
gone.
But to
That
me, you
is so
wouldn't miss a beat. I think that was just fantastic. I love it. I love it. I think it really is important, and you went on and just didn't miss anything, which is just great.
yeah.
Um,
The beauty of a live show.
yeah, beauty of a live show. These the changes, constant changes in direction, they are just so disruptive. And like you said earlier, it really just gives people the fact there's no meaning, but it also makes them really think that these leaders have a clue what they're doing.
Right.
Where are they taking us, really? Because you start getting into this notion of strategic trust. I trust these leaders to lead us into a really good future. And you lose that. So now you're not just losing meaning, you're losing some of your safety as well. That whole notion of psychological safety, is this a safe
Mhm.
place for me? I mean, that is a real problem. And so people have to do more than this. You've got to create progress and meaningful work all the time, but you've got to be that rock of Gibraltar as senior leader, right? You've got to really set the stage, make sure people know that they're heading in a safe direction, that everything's going to work out, and you are competent and you know what you're doing.
Yeah. One of the most interesting things you can ever do for your people is say, I don't know.
Yes.
Because a lot of times people feel like they have to know everything. And as the leader, you want to know everything. But there are times when you don't. And you need to let people know that and not try to just fake it and pretend like you
Yeah.
do, because it undermines, again, it just undermines the work. Because eventually they figure out, if they don't already know, that you don't know.
Oh,
And
they're going to find
then
out.
it's more detrimental. It's absolutely more detrimental than if you had just come out up front and been open and honest to say, I don't know, but we're going to figure it out together.
It's so interesting you bring that up. There was an article recently on one of Apple's secrets for hiring success. And one of the things they're looking for is in these interviews where they cover lots of topics is for the candidate to say, I don't know. And be comfortable saying that in the interview, because that vulnerability is one of the things that's going to allow them to actually innovate to uncover new things and to say, hey, I don't know, but I will go figure it out.
Yeah.
I don't have any doubt about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a very interesting interaction one time. I was an IT consultant for almost 20 years, and I was at a client site, and I had a leader press me to give her an answer.
Mm.
And, I didn't know there was a production problem. I was the application architect on the team, and I didn't know the answer. And I said, I don't know why this is broken, but let me go figure it out. Give me some time and let me go figure it out. And she
Yeah.
just couldn't take that I don't know as an answer. And I walked away from
How
that
ridiculous.
exchange. Yeah, it was quite interesting because she just kind of was like a dog with a bone and would not let it go. And I walked away from that exchange, one, feeling really good about myself because no matter how
Yeah.
much she beat me up about, well, just guess or tell me what you're
Yeah.
thinking and da da da. She's going back and forth, and I'm just like, this is what I think. And then, of course, she poked holes in
Right.
what I thought. And I was just kind of like, well, I told you from the beginning, I don't know. So I'm just purely guessing. And I walked away feeling good because I didn't just make something up. I stuck to my guns and said, I don't know. And, here's what I'm thinking, but I don't know.
Yeah.
And I felt really good about that because felt like I could walk away from that exchange not feeling like I had to change myself to be somebody else just so that she would be satisfied. But then
Right.
I also learned a lot about her in not being willing to accept I don't know as an answer. It speaks volumes
Oh, it speaks volumes. I mean, that's
about your personal character that you expect everybody to know everything all the time.
oh
That's just
yeah.
an unrealistic expectation, and it can actually kill people's enthusiasm and joy about work for
How,
sure.
how about those people who just, when you say, look, I don't know, let's say you're talking to, you're working on a large initiative or something, and something comes up that was unexpected. People say, what's that going to take? And you're like, listen, we have to research that. We got to go figure out what that means. I
Mhm.
don't know how much it's going to take or what that means to the project overall. Oh, come on. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? You
Yep,
finally give them an
yep,
answer. And then when the truth comes out, the facts come out, I should say, not the truth, but when the facts are known and it's different, these jerks will go, wait a minute, you said it was X. No, I
mhm,
told you we didn't know, we needed to figure it out. You kept pressing till you got a
yep,
number. That's why I
yeah,
told you I didn't want to give you a number.
yeah.
You have to do this stupid dance here. But yeah, that's just crazy stuff.
Yeah, it's quite unfortunate because,
Yeah.
a lot of times when people are vulnerable enough to say, I don't know, that's really a time for you as a leader to help them, to encourage them, to see if there's a way that you can do something about it, but not to badger them
Oh yeah.
because people have different ways of processing information. So if they're saying, I don't know, that probably means I need more time to research. I need to dig into this more. I need to think about this more deeply. And, and I've mentioned this several times, but I'm one of those people, I need to think deeply about it before I come to a conclusion or before I
Yeah.
decide, what my next step is going to be. I really need to think about it. And I don't do well in high pressure stressful situations. So in a situation like that where, it's a production issue that needs to be addressed and I understand the sense of urgency, I even more like to the 99th degree need more time to think clearly about it
Oh yeah.
because I'm not wired to function well in
No one
stress.
is. No one's wired to do any kind of real cognitive reasoning when that kind of pressure is on.
Yeah,
When there's, you get these managers are putting in ordinate amounts of pressure on and creating some fear over the situation. That's when the limbic system cuts in.
yeah,
And that's when that cognitive thought tends to really slow down. Judgment is impaired. And, leaders like that just, once again, they don't understand how to get the best out of people.
right.
But I think this is a really important thing. You should go look. There is a book, The Progress Principle. You should get the Harvard Business Review study. You can look at that McKinsey article. This stuff really matters. You've got to be aware of what creates meaning. You've got to be creating meaning for your people all the time. You got to be celebrating progress when it's made so that people get more meaning out of the work they're doing and more fulfillment because the inner lives of the people really does matter. And we know that's where so much of the drive is going to come from.
Yeah. In this article, Teresa talks about just this whole mediocrity, this sense of accepting the bare minimums is the
Oh,
way I describe it. It's one of those things that can really kill momentum on a team, and
yeah,
it can kill meaning for activities when it's okay for one person to not do everything they're supposed to do or to do things in such a mediocre way and everybody else has a higher standard. It really does make things so much more difficult for those that are there that see the double standard. So it really frustrates people and it causes them to feel like, well, if they don't have to do it, I don't either. If they don't have to become the best or do their job well, then why should I?
right. Because how important is it? If you could do it in a great way or a mediocre way, well, if mediocre is okay, this can't really be that important.
Exactly.
Because if it really mattered, we'd all really be trying to excel and do a great job at this. But obviously, if mediocrity is acceptable, then this isn't that important. And humans are wired that way. They get it.
Yeah, absolutely.
They totally get it. Well, listen, we're here every Wednesday at 3 o'clock. We broadcast at that time. We hope you can join us. We cover an interesting topic every week. We're going to have to pick up another series again, Tara, and
Yes.
figure out
Yes, we
what that
do.
is. So we're going week to week at this point, but they're always interesting. They're always about the human factors that drive productivity and performance in an organization. I think you should join us and tune in. We've covered a remarkable amount of ground in these. We've covered so many different scientific research projects, and it's an incredible education to sit here and go through these things. You should look up these articles on your own, take a look at them. That book and the article on the progress principle in Harvard Business Review, that article, that is just a great article. I think anybody who's managing and leading people should read that without a doubt. So please join us every week at 3 o'clock. And we certainly look forward to having you here. Goodbye for now.
Yes. Bye for now.